And we're live.
Yay!
I
Hello,
think we start
everybody.
every live like this.
We do. It's kind of funny. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second test
We do.
episode. Is this our second or our third?
This is our third test episode.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so welcome to our third test episode of Black Prose Podcast, where Black lives, Black voices, and Black stories have always mattered. My name is Oshale, and you can find me on YouTube as Oshi Reads, Instagram as Oshi Reads, and on Twitter as Oshale_O'Day.
Ooh, she gave all the socials today.
Right.
Trying to step up my Twitter game.
Let me see. I'm Brittany, aka Melanin Eclectic. I have Melanin Eclectic on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And then my shop Instagram is Shop Melanin Eclectic. And my website is melanineclectic.com. There we go. I did all mine.
Nice.
Hey guys, I am Troy Nicole. My YouTube is Inkfleur Studio. My Instagram is Bookish Wallfleur. And my Twitter is Bookish Inkfleur.
Look at you.
Oh my gosh, I don't think you've ever voluntarily.
Never.
What I always do the social medias.
Yes, you're right. You do. You never shout out your channel, even though, by the way, guys, we need to get her Inkfleur channel to 1,000 subscribers. Thanks so much.
Yes, we really do. So make sure you like, subscribe, share her channel with people that are interested in journaling videos or just videos that are very aesthetically pleasing and relaxing.
Yes. Ooh, also, we should point out two very important things. Today is Sunday prep day. So though we are testing out these segments, you might hear some other sounds going on because we're also prepping for the fact that we have to go to work tomorrow.
Basically, we are all trying to multitask. So you might hear some echoes. You might hear some chopping noises. I'm folding clothes at the moment. So bear with us as we try to also prepare for the week ahead. So I did want to talk about something, introducing a segment that I want y'all's feedback on. So I was minding my Black ass business when I got online and saw that my good sis Keke Palmer was being dragged by all of her baby hairs, and I had no idea what was going on. And when I looked a little bit deeper into the situation, I basically saw that August Alsina had said some things about her in response to her tweet saying that she had never dated him. And as we all know, hurt people hurt people. And I think she gave a very classy clap back where she basically said that she wasn't going to kick him when he was down. But I just thought it was interesting that, you know, given the events of this past week and kind of the bomb that he dropped and what it's exploded socially, I'm not going to talk about some other people's marriage because it's none of our business. But I just think it's interesting that he basically unleashed all this vitriol on her. He claims that she was subtweeting him, which I saw no evidence of, but who knows. And meanwhile, there were men who were dragging him and making memes about him and ridiculing him and laughing about his situation. He didn't say anything to them. But I just find it very interesting that he felt so comfortable coming for Keke Palmer, a Black woman. And that just really irritated me.
Oh, I mean, let's be honest. There are a lot of people that feel very comfortable coming for Black women on a regular basis.
It's just it's getting so tiring and exhausting, especially in our current climate that we're in right now, where we really don't need to be unnecessarily attacking one another. And we need to try to stick together as much as possible. It's just like one more thing. It's like, great.
I had somebody ask me a question where they said, why do I always specifically say that like we shouldn't come for Black women? Like, what if Black women deserve it? Or like, what if whatever that woman did deserved it and it's not because of her skin color? And I'm always hesitant to answer this question, but it's like, come on. It's not that we're not saying don't call them out or call them for their wrongs. What we're saying is just the way that we are cared for in general is less than everyone else. So even if we did do something wrong, we get chastised totally different than everyone else.
It's like 10 times worse. And usually it's to a way to actually like destroy us and bury us so that we can't come back from it. I feel that other races of women are allowed to make mistakes 2, 3, 4, 5, 11,000 times and give these whack ass, lame ass apologies and cry on camera, sitting
With
on
no
like,
makeup on.
with no makeup on and raggedy ass clothes that are actually designer, their hair in a ponytail with a scrunchie on a floor in one of the rooms in their house, and boo-hoo, and it's okay, and it's like, oh, we forgive you, we understand, and it's like those same standards, that same forgiveness is not extended to Black women. And also just within our community, there is an inequality in the way Black men and Black women are treated, which is why it stings even more when it comes from a Black man, because historically in our communities, Black men are coddled a lot and given a lot of chances and babied and mothered and treated like boys, even though they're men, and given all these excuses. But when it's a Black woman or even a young Black girl, she's treated as a woman and not a girl like she is. And it's just, I mean, it goes back to our childhood. Like, you know, a lot of us, you know, developed early and whatnot. And I still to this day clearly remember certain women and men in my church community who I'm sure they thought they were doing something great, pulling me aside and just kind of cautioning me against wearing certain things and how I didn't want to be seen as fast or too grown or and then none of the boys got the same chastisements or warnings or nothing. It was always just like, oh well, you know, he's got to grow up to be a man. He's got to come into his own. But to me, like being 12, 13 years old, it's like, oh, well, you know, you need to cover up a little bit more. Meanwhile, I'm literally a child just trying to mind my business and play. Like, it's just like,
I feel you because when I turned like, I want to say 10 or 11, I started growing boobs. And I was just like, okay, well, you know, I'm hitting pre-pubescent years, whatever. I really didn't think anything of it. When I hit 12, my body went from being a stick to, I started filling out everywhere.
Stick to thick, well.
It just, and you know, if people see my maternal grandmother and my mom, it's really not shocking. But it was so exhausting because then I'd have people tell me, oh, you know, you're looking a little too grown. And I would be wearing some of the most, I could have Hannah Montana on my shirt and I would have been told I was looking grown. And I was just like, well, what am I supposed, I did not wear skirts my first 2 years of middle school because my butt was so big that no matter how much I pulled down the skirt, you would like, it was too much. And I would get people to say, like, to my face, mind you, they'd be like, oh, with all that booty. And I'm just like, I am literally 11. Please leave me alone. Like or I would have like, my dad made it a rule that I wasn't allowed to walk to the corner across from our house by myself because of people stopping me. And my brother, my baby brother, he's 5 years younger than me. I was like 15, he was 10. And there were times where we'd walk across the street, people would roll up in their car. Someone asked me how old I was. I would say 15. Some would be like, oh, hell no, and drive off. And others would still try to get me in their car.
Wow.
And my brother at like 10 would be like, I will whoop your ass.
Damn.
I'm not joking. And that's why I could not go anywhere in my area by myself.
That's pretty gross.
It was so gross. And some of these men were like 50.
Ugh.
You know what's sad though? This is such a common story that I hear from my other girlfriends. Like they'll be like, yep, I would get hollered at by men. They would be outside on like school grounds and shit, following girls home, like following them around the neighborhood, scaring the shit out of them. Like they're literally like in middle school, just trying to get home from school. Like it's ridiculous.
There's literally nothing more horrifying than you walking by yourself and a car starts slowing down.
Yes.
Oh my God. Leave me alone. I've had times where I've literally like just kept looking straight and kept walking fast. And where I live, a lot of people know my dad. So I was always super cautious because it was like, I mean, they could be family, but then they could not. So I always like walk really fast. And then I remember my dad's best friend, who I pretty much, he grew up like my uncle. He'd be like, "Lil Troy, you sure are walking fast. I see Troy got you real trained." And I turned over and I was like, "Oh my God, don't do that to me. Why didn't you just say my name?" Like he had my heart palpitating. He was literally like an uncle to me, but it was just the thought that someone had slowed down next to me. And I was like gripping my bag, like, "Oh my God, I'm so close to home. I'm so close to home." It's horrifying.
Oh, it's
That
so
sounds
heartbreaking.
No, I mean, I didn't necessarily have this issue because when thunder and lightning, which is what I call my thighs, came into play, I started wearing my brother's clothes almost exclusively. Because like my upper body, like I was like a double A still, but I was wearing grown women jeans. So my body didn't look right. So I was just like, screw it, I'm gonna wear my brother's clothes. But I saw this comment that says, Elle said, "I developed early too, and I'm trying to walk that fine line between modesty versus self-expression with my daughter now." And this is interesting to me for two reasons. One, it's one thing to, teach your daughter about modesty and covering up. But the one thing that I realized that we do a lot, or that has been done a lot, is that modesty is being taught only as a way to keep men from looking, rather than just teaching women to cover up for themselves. Like it's always in response to a man's response to us rather than us doing it for ourselves. And it's like, "Oh, you should cover up. You don't want a man to look at you and think this." Well, why is he looking at me and thinking this in the first place?
But you know what? Yeah. It's one thing when strangers, you know what the worst ones are? Is when they tell you to look around dudes in your family.
Oh, yeah. That's always so creepy to me. I'm
just like, hold up. Why are they in the house?
Yeah, that's really disturbing, actually. Extremely disturbing. It like suggests a pathology of pedophilia in your own home, where as a child you can't even feel safe in your own home. And like, unfortunately, it is a horrific reality for so many young girls and women, and even young boys, that have to grow up in certain environments where they are being violated and things like that. But it's just, to me, to even have that thought as a guardian or parent to tell a young girl to cover up. Like, I remember in my house, like, you dress down when you're at home, you're comfortable. And like, I would wear these like little ass shorts, and I'm like, 12, 13 years old, like just starting to develop. I wear these little ass shorts and things like that. And I would know, like, oh, if we unexpectedly had someone stop by the house, I would like run to my room and go change. But thankfully, not once did I ever feel like I needed to cover up, with my dad and my brothers there. Like, I never felt, and my mom never even suggested that. But to hear that that's actually something that a family member would suggest is really creepy.
One time for Thanksgiving, my family, I'm going to say a family member because I do not need this heat, but to come down for Thanksgiving each year, right? And one of my family members, she's really, really old now, especially. She's super old. She was sitting at the dining room table, and I was in the kitchen with my uncle, and he was telling me something about making gumbo. I really wasn't paying attention. And I had on my uniform. And in 8th grade, I finally started wearing skirts. I started being comfortable with, I was like, okay, I have huge thighs. It's just, I'm not going to stop myself from wearing stuff because I have huge thighs. And so I calls my name, and I come out of the kitchen, and she goes, mind you, I'm like 13. She goes, "Oh, Troy, Nicole, look at all them thighs. What you gonna do with all them thighs?"
Oh my God.
And I looked at my dad, and my dad, I could see his nostrils flaring, and he looked like he really wanted to be hella disrespectful. And I was like standing there, and my grandmother, she has no filter. And she was like, "If you don't shut up." And I was just like, why? Okay, first of all, I'm 13. I didn't really comprehend what she was asking me or what she was trying to say. I was really confused.
Like, what was she implying?
I could see the room get so still, and I was just like, wait, but what did she mean? And it wasn't until I got into high school that I thought back onto it, and I was just like, she was meaning in like a sexualized way, like
Yep.
like that you're all curvy and thick, and I'm just like,
Meanwhile, you're a child.
like I was not thinking that far ahead. Like I was not thinking about that. I just come home from school. Like it was so like weird to me, and I was just like, and the fact that another woman did it to me, it wasn't a dude. It was a family member, a woman.
Remember that generation of women, like they're the ones who put up with their husbands having entirely different families and just putting up with being, you know, a devoted wife. Like you have to remember that generation is the generation where they are literally taught their main mission is to become a wife and a mother.
Yeah.
So the only thing that they were taught was like their etiquette and their dress and their everything was taught to them on the basis of male approval. Whereas now we look at men and we're like, we really don't need you to do anything anymore. So like, I don't have to do that much. And it's just like, oh.
Yeah, they come from a generation where they're male gaze identified, so they see the world through the eyes of the men in the community, and it's very obvious.
Yes.
It's like a very, very oppressive patriarchy on themselves. It's so sad. And there is kind of this ritual of humiliation that a lot of young Black girls go through that I really don't like things like calling them out in front of family members or groups about their bodies when they're, you know, still children themselves and still trying to come into their own. Like, you know, small things like when an incident does occur and a young girl is assaulted or in a precarious situation involving a man who should not even be looking at her in a sexualized way, the young girl's always blamed. It's something she did. It's because she's fat. It's because she's this. It's because she's that. That was that whole era. And unfortunately, it's still happening.
I mean, that same era is also the era where men are taught to be so toxic within themselves that like they can't acknowledge their emotions. They don't talk about their own abuse, and it just propels into the next generation. Like there's so many generational type bondage that our generation has been trying to break just from the mere acknowledgement of the abuse and things. It's just like it's like women went through the open persecution. Men went through a quiet persecution in the same household.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's why I love how now we're really making an effort to normalize mental health in our community and encouraging that mental health should be affordable and should not be so stigmatized and should be something that people should be able to seek out freely and without judgment or there being a stigma to it if they need it.
I agree. Oh yeah, Summer said, I didn't realize that boys were just as much at risk for abuse until I became a mother, and my son's doctor told me about statistics and gave us precautions to put in place. That is so true though. Like if you, from the men that have spoken up about their abuse, it's always somebody in a leadership position that of something that they're doing. So it's always like a coach or like the dad's best friend or something.
Yep.
It's so creepy. I mean, I'm afraid to have kids. So the people who do have kids, bless you. Because I just don't know how you do it. Because I would literally be ready to kill everybody on site regularly.
And you know what? I said this in a live before, and people in the comments are like, are you serious? But my dad had like rules that we had to follow, that we could not go to sleepovers. We could not go to other people's houses unless they were family. And honestly, only my Houston family, most of my family lives in Oakland on my dad's side. So it was like my Houston family were pretty much the only people that I ever really hung out with. Like I would spend the night over my cousin's house and all this stuff. Only family was in Houston that we really did it with. And that was it. Because he was just like, listen, that is not happening. It'll never happen. That was like my dad's biggest fear, was that like something, God forbid, would happen to one of us. So unless it was right across the street where my grandma's house was, we were not going.
I understand.
It was like that in my family too. And like when I was a teenager, when I was a kid growing up, I would have so much resentment and anger towards my dad because he never let me do anything. Like he never let me go anywhere. none of us kids really, but especially me, because I was the only girl. And I literally only had to fix my lips to be like, so-and-so is having a, he'd be like, nope. Nope, you already know.
My
And
God.
and then my mom would, I would go talk to my mom, and my mom would be like, I'll talk to him. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I get to go. And then he comes back and he's like, they can come over here if they're
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Or
he's like, I'll be happy
mine
to talk to their parents. They can come over here, but you ain't going over there.
Mine was always, my dad would be like, oh yeah, sure, you can go. For example, if it was a sleepover, he'd drop me off at 6. He'll be like, I'll be back to pick you up at 8. It's a sleepover. What you mean?
That was
he would legit roll back at 8 to pick me up. Like he would like one time he let me pack my whole bag, and I'm thinking I'm really about to sleep over for the first time. He came back to pick up me and all my stuff at 8. Like
he's like, I just want her to enjoy the idea of it.
Yeah, my dad was like, I don't know their parents. I don't know who else lives in that house. They're always welcome to sleep over at your house, but you're not going over there.
Mm-hmm.
The only people I was allowed to sleep over, and it was only 3 families, and we had all been going to the same church the whole time that I was in Okinawa. And they were also the people we went over to eat every Sunday at dinner, or they would come to our house for Sunday dinner. Because, over there we didn't have family nearby, so they were basically like my extended cousins.
Right.
And it was literally just them. And even then, it was like, your brother got to sleep over too.
Right. Somebody else got to be there. You're not going to be there by yourself.
Right. You're not going to be there by yourself. He's not. Your brother going? Is your brother invited? What? Like,
what?
Well, it looks like it's going to be girls and your brother.
Right. Oh, my goodness. Oh gosh. What? Are you looking through these comments?
Never actually explained what that segment was called and why we called it that,
Oh, okay. So it basically just is a great way to introduce a story where you're essentially just living your life, minding your business, and then an incident has occurred, or just it's a way to introduce things that we feel either racially unjust or some type of social or societal issue or community issue, or even just a way to tell a funny story of something that happened to us that day or that week.
Oh my God, I have one.
Ooh, good. Share.
I was minding my black ass business, strolling on Twitter, and I see this raggedy daggedy mud bucket dude coming from Miss Jill Scott.
Oh my God, yes.
I don't even remember his name. He's some little football player who I guess felt the type of way. And he tweeted, y'all are actually sexually aroused by Jill Scott still?
Yes.
And I was like, who isn't?
Jill Scott is beautiful.
Listen, Jill Scott is body goals.
She is gorgeous. And it's like, once again, why is it so easy for him to come for a black woman? Like, sir, why?
Jill Scott was minding her own business, sipping her jasmine tea.
Her jasmine tea.
I just imagine her drinking jasmine tea.
That sounds like something she would do.
It just sounds so elegant and like so just regal. Yeah, like, and it was like, it was unprovoked. That was another thing. It was like, who asked you? She don't want you.
Oh, but he was swiftly gathered by the internet, my friends.
Oh, he was.
So many men came for his neck. I actually felt bad for him.
I didn't. Don't go on Twitter talking stuff you can't handle. That's just what it is. I keep saying that. Twitter make y'all real bold till you get called out, and then all of a sudden you want to cry bullying. If you don't have several seats.
Oh
my favorite is when they just like delete their account.
Yes.
I'm like, so you started this, couldn't handle the smoke, you gotta go, sit down.
That was crazy.
Internet justice
I
is
saw that in the shade
good.
room, and I was like, what is happening right now? What is actually happening?
I saw the tweet and I was gonna comment, but then before I even clicked comment, I realized that it went from like one response to like 80 responses in a minute, and I was like, oh, I don't have to say a thing.
Like, they're taking care of this for me. Good.
I'm just like, ooh. And then I read the comments and got my whole life. Oh, you know what? This also brings up another. We've had a lot of infractions of black men against black women this week.
It's so
Because
sad.
I was also minding my black guy's business, and I saw Ray Janae leave a Twitter comment, and I clicked above it to see what it was in response to, and it was her nappy-headed daddy with his 3 dreads.
Yep.
And 52 cents talking about why they choose exotic women, which I just couldn't help but assume that they were implying that black women weren't good enough anymore.
Basically.
And I was just like,
the part that
your
really
mothers
broke my heart, like, we do not expect any better from 50 Cent. He has
we
been
also don't want neither one of them.
I mean, ever since he did Naturi so badly with those memes, do y'all remember that? Where he made those really mean memes. Keep in mind, she is on his show. He is her boss. So you would expect some level of professionalism. She is an actor or actress on his show, Power. So you wouldn't think that he would do her like this. But he basically found a picture of her where, because of the angle, you can't really see her edges in the photo. And he put that picture on his Instagram and basically started saying she had no hair, she was bald-headed, and compared her to, like, I don't know who this character is. I feel like people who are really into comic books and things will know, and I don't. But he compared her to, like, this green. Was it the Hulk? I don't even remember. It was pretty bad, and you could tell she was so embarrassed and so hurt, and she was just like, she was literally like, have I done something to you? Like, are we beefing that I don't know about? Like, don't I make you look good every week on the show? Like, I don't understand. And then he made this lame ass apology, and he apologized, but then he posted another meme after his apology. And ever since that moment, I mean, there have been many other moments. I mean, many for years now. But ever since that moment, I was like, okay, he's clearly trash, and he's clearly a self-hating. And the part that really upset me was Lil Wayne, because he does have a dark-skinned little, well, she's not young anymore, but she is fairly young. She's in her early 20s, I think, Reginae. He does have a dark-skinned daughter.
Her and her mother are gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous. And for him to be there giggling like a little schoolgirl, even though I don't really want to insult schoolgirls, but he's sitting there giggling like it's all sweet and it's all so funny. And I'm just like, how can you be so disconnected from your own lineage? And the irony is, I remember years ago when he literally said, well, these were the two things that made me cancel him. The first time was in 2016 when Mike Brown and Philando Castile were killed and the Black Lives Matter movement started. And he said that he had never experienced racism. So you're canceled. And he was just like, I don't really understand what's happening. I don't think it's all necessary. Like, I've never experienced racism. I know plenty of great white people. I don't understand. So, okay. And then the second thing was when he literally made a comment stating that he is never again going to date a Black woman, and definitely not a dark-skinned Black woman, because he doesn't want to create any more dark-skinned children.
Oh, yeah.
That he wanted a light-skinned, pretty daughter with good hair, but he got a son instead. And so he's done. I was like, okay. Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, he has like one of the prettiest daughters ever.
She's gorgeous.
Having to defend her own Blackness against her busted daddy. Thanks, Wayne. We appreciate you for this. Thanks.
I was like, the colorism is the colorism and the self-hate at an all-time high.
One day we're gonna have a podcast devoted to colorism. One day.
One day.
That's too much to tackle in a test.
It is, but I felt so heartbroken for her, but I saw a lot of other women coming to her defense and uplifting her, including her mom. So I hope wherever she is, I hope that she's taking care of herself and her mental health.
Yeah, because it's clear her daddy doesn't think she's beautiful. And I'm sorry, the first man to ever tell me I was beautiful was my dad.
Period.
So
yeah,
I don't know what that's like to have such a
either.
daddy like that. I couldn't imagine like what that's like. But clearly her mother makes sure to reiterate that she's beautiful. So hopefully that helps. Because I'm just like, wow.
Yeah,
I don't know what that's like. My daddy says I'm beautiful when I feel the worst.
Exactly.
So, wow.
Yeah, trash. That was really heartbreaking. I was like, he is trash. We've been known, but damn.
I think that's the only 2 infractions I can remember this week.
This week, Lord.
That was just this week. Oh, man. I can't.
So, moving on to our next segment. reading the books BookTube or Book Twitter loves, I wanted to talk about some of the books that we've been reading that everyone is just absolutely obsessed with. The first one is on my TBR, but I'm going to do this because I absolutely love when Brittany talks about romance. I don't know why. I get like a sick sort of satisfaction from it.
It's so funny.
It's hilarious. But you've been reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and everyone just loves this book. It's an interracial romance.
Well, people keep identifying it as a Black romance, and I just want to state that it's not, but continue.
Yeah, Talia Hibbert only really writes interracial romance, so I don't understand why people identify her as a Black romance writer. I don't see her that way. Most of her books, if I'm not mistaken, are interracial romances. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Like, I want to look it up now just to see, because whenever they talk about Black romance writers, they always include her name, but I haven't seen her write a book where it was a Black romance. And then I was thinking maybe
they're thinking Black romance writers as in she is Black and she writes.
Yes,
romance.
that's what I was like. I think you're just saying Black romance writers, and that's where she fits in. But as far as Black romance books, nah. This is with I think a Black girl, and then a very clearly stated white guy.
Wait, why do you say I think a black girl? Now I'm intrigued.
It's not really stated. It's not really clearly stated that she's Black.
Really?
So far, like
no, Chloe's supposed to be Black.
Chloe, I know Chloe's supposed to be Black, but like how I've only read a couple of romance books so far, and clearly she's lusted after whatever his name is, Red. So I've gotten a full breakdown of everything about him: his skin tone, his hair color, his eye color, his build, his smell, all of that. But as far as her, again, he only got off by her ankles and her.
Oh my God! Please.
Her collarbone or something, but he never described her color. So I was like, maybe I need to keep paying attention. I don't know, but
listen, I will say, like in romance novels, they're not going to specifically say like this character is Black. Like you will never, like he's not going to say ever that she is Black.
Wait.
In that wording.
Some of them do.
Some of them do.
No, I'm talking about this specific book.
Oh, okay.
I was saying in real life way around, he never specifically says that she's Black, like ever in it.
But I want to know, okay, so this is going to be funny. I am intrigued to see which color description that's going to be used in this book. Like, is it going to be mocha? Is it going to be like a deep cream? Is it going to be like, what is the color that's going to be used when they finally have sex? Obviously, I haven't gotten there yet. I laugh at this book, but without the sex part, it would be such a cute contemporary book.
I'm dead without the sex part.
I feel that, but for a lot of romances, though.
Like the sexual tension, or like
it's not even really. I can't even say that it's sexual tension. That's the sad part about it. It's like I feel like the sexual tension in the book he created in his head because he's just a horny person. Because she's too oblivious to realize that she's got actual feelings until she feels it in her nether regions, which they use the phrase nether regions if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, okay.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I think. I heard what you said, Troy, about like how you feel. Like Brittany, you said that it would be such a cute contemporary if their sexual part was taken out. And Troy, you were like, I feel that same way about a lot of romance novels. And here's the thing that I always come across. I feel like writing sex and writing sexual tension and sexual chemistry is an art form. It actually is a skill of writing. And I think a lot of people underestimate that and don't really take that into account when they're like, oh, I'm just going to write a romance novel. It'll be easy, because they either have read a lot of romance novels or they've watched a lot of romantic comedies and they think that it's easy. But personally, I think to be able to write two characters where you can believe that there's a lot of sexual tension and chemistry between them is a skill that honestly, and I don't want to be that person, but honestly, a lot of romance writers don't have.
Also, I just typically really like angsty books, like when they're romances, unless, like, for instance, if the whole story is based on people being friends with benefits, then naturally I'm going to expect all the sex scenes. But when there's really, like, it's not really needed in it, like, it's just like they randomly have sex, and I'm just like, okay, can I just pass this? Because it'll be kind of awkward sometimes. Sometimes it's
Have you, like, skipped those pages? Because I totally have. Like,
yes, I'll skip them.
Okay, then I don't feel bad anymore.
I'm gonna just I do it all the time. Like the only time I don't skip the sex scene is if like the whole story is just amazing and you've just been waiting for this moment. You're like, y'all have got to do this now. Like, let's take off your clothes and take off your clothes. Get in the bed. Like, then I'm like, okay, I've been waiting. The writer has built the tension to the point where it's actually you're anticipating that scene, or like Troy, like you said, it's very angsty and it's been very like love, hate, push, pull, you know, whatever. And then it's like it just naturally is something that you're looking forward to in the story. But a lot of times in some of these books, I'm like, yeah, no, okay.
Also, can I just say, I get real tired of reading point of views from non-Black people and hearing about someone being chocolate or smelling like coconuts and shea butter.
I was about to say
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, I can't.
Can I just ask this one question for all the people that have read Get a Life, Chloe Brown? Anybody else feel like the scene where he decided he was going to go back to his room and imagine what Chloe looked like naked and try to get off on that plot? Did anybody else find that weird? Because like it literally just happened, and I was like, "Wait, is she with you?" She's sir.
Wait, that part confused you? The part that confused me when he's like, when he sees her peeping on him and he thinks like she thinks he's like a circus animal or something.
Oh yeah, I was like,
what?
I'm saying there's no way that you can consider this sexual tension or anything because they're both delusional in different ways.
You are so funny. I cannot wait to read this book.
I was just like, you just saw a girl peeping on you, and your first thought is to assume that she thinks you're an animal?
Like, come on, sir, peeping?
Sir, she was peeping on you.
Wait,
he had no shirt on either.
Oh yeah, he had no shirt on because he was painting, and clearly she was spying on him. And she's freaking out. She's like, "Oh my God, I think he saw me." And then like they switch to another scene, and he's literally debating whether or not she sees him as like lower class, and that's why she was spying on him. And I'm like, rich people who consider you lower class don't have time to do what you think they're doing
at all.
I was like,
I wanted to ask. So people have always bring up this book when they talk about representation of someone being a disabled main character and like talking about ableism.
I can give credit to this book for that because she has fibromyalgia, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's one of the illnesses that you can't really see.
Right.
So I do like that part because the way that it's talked about and the way that she handles it is very interesting to me because she doesn't want people to know about it. Her sisters know about it. Oh, I do love the sister relationship in this book. The sister relationship in this book is very typical, like sister.
Yeah,
because there's no sense of self boundaries or nothing. She's like, "Can I not be bothered?" And they're like, "You'll be fine," as they go right on in and make themselves comfortable. Like that part I really like, or how they're very supportive of her, and they know when she has pain spells basically, and they don't necessarily make it like, "Oh my God, I pity you." It's more like, "We're gonna stay here until you get out the shower," and they're really just staying there to make sure that she doesn't pass out.
Right. Wow.
Like I do like that part of the story. That part is definitely I do really like that. Now I do have to ask some people some questions because I was told that this book that I reminded them that some people said I reminded them of this character, and I have several questions.
Wait. How?
Wait, what?
Okay, so I don't know how. I have to go back and ask certain people because again, I don't mind people saying that I remind them of certain characters. But when you pick a character that is just so very obnoxiously annoying, I'm trying to figure out if you're trying to
oh my God,
or you're just being an ass and waiting to get cussed out.
They must have to tell you something
Because I was like, yo, so before I read them for full, because I have to verify, I need to ask them what they see. Like, where's the correlation between me and her? Because
there's no correlation.
Listen, I was fine until I realized how freaking annoying that little girl is.
She is so annoying.
She's annoying. She's naive. she's really pretentious in this weird way. I can't describe, like, Chloe would get punched in the face in a real world.
Oh my God, not punched in the face.
Listen, because again, she has a disability that most people don't see, so that she looks like a normal person who's just being a dick.
Yeah.
She would get punched.
Oh my gosh.
That's
So
how I
is
was
she
like,
just, like,
you
bratty?
need
Is
to
she,
know
like,
these people.
bratty?
Huh?
Is she bratty?
Would I call it bratty? I don't think it's bratty. I think that she's lived a very sheltered life.
Yeah.
And then she's lived a very sheltered, rich life. So she doesn't
Okay.
have that type of like boundary. Like, I don't know.
She's very kind of stuck up-ish.
Yes.
Okay.
She's
It's
a
like,
snob, but doesn't even realize she's a snob.
exactly. Like, she doesn't think she's being a snob, but she's being a snob. And it's just kind of like, girl, why are you acting like you're so above everybody? Like,
Yes.
I don't understand.
Like, there's a scene where he's basically like, you do know you're an asshole, right? He's like, how am I an asshole? I was just telling him that he was trash. Basically, that's what the conversation was saying.
Oh my Lord. So she's uppity is what y'all are trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but her character is written in a way where it seems as if she doesn't realize that she is.
Huh.
And I'm just like, how?
That's fascinating.
I'm just like, I'm gonna finish it because this is all for Noria's readathon, but listen, I'd rather not.
Here's my question though. I feel like because the romance novels that you've read, you've listened to via audiobook.
And I've skipped all the sex scenes except for like 2.
Something that I realized though recently is like there are only certain romance novels I can listen to on audiobook because the audiobook actually ruins it for me.
Oh my God, sometimes they're so cringy.
What was it? The book?
Worst Best Man? Cringy.
Oh, that audiobook was so terrible.
It was terrible. This audiobook is not bad because, again, it's actually a cute contemporary story if you ignore the sex parts.
I'm dead.
Like, Worst Best Man wasn't even a cute contemporary story. It was a very poorly written rom-com.
Right.
Sorry.
Lord help us. Okay. Moving on to the next book. So I wanted to talk about Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo because I know Brittany finished it earlier this week and I finished it yesterday. I want to say it was yesterday. Either yesterday or the day before yesterday. It might have been Friday night, actually.
And Troy doesn't mind spoilers, so there's that.
No, I don't care. I'll still read it.
So let's discuss.
Can we just praise the queen that is Miss Acevedo just for like an extra second, because she somehow managed to make me care about both of these girls.
Yes.
And I cared about both of their hurt and both of their pain, and I couldn't decide which sister got screwed over more.
Right. So for those that don't know, Clap When You Land is about 2 sisters, one who lives in New York City and another one that lives in the Dominican Republic. And they have no idea of each other's existence until their father's plane goes down. And apparently this was kind of a famous airplane
it most
crash.
definitely was a famous crash. It messed up the Dominican Republic, the Dominican population of New York. Like,
yes,
it hurt them for years.
So this was an actual plane crash that occurred, and it happened shortly after the attacks on the Twin Towers. And so there was a lot of confusion for a while with people trying to figure out if it was terrorism or not and things like that. But essentially their father goes down on this infamous crash, and that's when they learned of one another, because they had no idea, well, to some extent, that the other existed to some extent. And their secrets start coming out the woodwork, and all of these events kind of unfold because of their father passing away. And Elizabeth Acevedo represents both of the sisters in the novel. It's written in verse, which is brilliant. And then it's just going back and forth between each sister and her perspective and where she lives, one in New York and one in the Dominican.
So let's talk about Yahira first.
Yahaira.
Yahara first, because listen, can we talk about how normal Elizabeth Acevedo wrote her character?
Yes. So Yahaira is such an intriguing character. She is basically like this chess aficionado. Like she literally is like this amazing master chess champion wizard person. And she's also very good in school, but she's not interested. She's very blasé about her grades. She's one of those smart girls that's like effortlessly smart.
Lucky.
And like, but the way it's written, it's with no level of what's the word I'm looking for? Like she doesn't come off as pretentious at all.
Nope.
Or like a know-it-all or anything like that. It's like her smarts are just kind of, it's like, okay, yeah. And she's not really interested in school, especially after her father passes away. And she also has a girlfriend named Dre who lives in the building next door. And the way their relationship is written is so beautiful and has this like strong core of friendship at the center of it that I really appreciated. And it was just nice to see this beautiful love story. It's kind of a side story, but it's like this beautiful love story between these two Black girls and how normalized their relationship was, in the sense that there was no stigma around it when it comes to culture or family being repressive or not approving or family being angry. None of that. None of it. No traumatic coming out story. No. It was so well written, beautifully handled. And it was just like, this is what we want our future to be.
Yeah, it was just normal. It was like, it didn't need a special announcement. It wasn't like this is me putting in LGBTQ representation. This is me doing it here. It was literally just casual, like everything. This is what happens when it's normalized, because you read a book and you don't really think about that. Oh, look, there's representation. It's like, thank you for just throwing it in there and making it a part of the story without having to do this dramatic, like crazy speech thing, or having somebody in the book that disagrees with it or something like that. Thank you, because it was so nice. Plus, I just really love the fact that her girlfriend is like this hippie, like,
plant
growing, but I'm still gonna have an herb garden, despite the fire department telling me this is a fire hazard.
I love Elizabeth Acevedo's like side characters and best friend characters and relationship characters. She does them so well. And I was like, I want to know a Dre. Can I meet her? She seems so cool.
I do need to know a Dre in my life. Like, do I have one already? I'm not sure, but I need to go through my list, because like I need to find a Dre in my life. Listen. And I mean, not to date her, but like I need like a Dre friend in my life, because her presence was very comforting while I was reading it, because I did kind of feel on edge the whole time that I was reading the book.
Yes, it felt like something very, very, it's kind of like, it reminds me of like the movie Jaws, when somebody's swimming and there's a shark in the water and they don't know.
The music changes.
And the music starts and you're like, oh, hell. And you're just like waiting for the moment the shark attacks. That's how,
you're like, oh no, who's gonna die? Who's gonna die?
Especially if you listen to the audiobook, like there were literally moments, y'all, I was pacing, especially the last, I would say 45 minutes to an hour. I was pacing up and down in my living room while I was listening to the audiobook. I could not sit still. I was shaking and pacing up and down. I was like, oh my God.
No, there was another scene that had my heart racing at the same speed as that scene. And that was the bus scene. The scene where she learned that her daddy was a low-down dog.
Yes.
You mean? Like,
I know. Are you talking about the scene on the train?
Yes. I was like, I actually just screamed because I was just like, no.
I literally felt myself almost throw up.
I was just like, sickened.
Sickened. But yeah, it was, we don't want to give away too many spoilers, but it was just wonderful. And again, highly recommend the audiobook.
Highly, because her and the other voice actor for this book did a really good job, in my opinion. The other voice actor is the one. What book? What was her last book that I remember hearing her voice? I forgot. But like, he's one of my favorite voice actors.
I just realized that we didn't talk about Camino at all.
Oh my god.
We only talked about Yahaira.
So I felt okay. So this is what this at first when I was first listening to this book, I felt like Kamina had the worst end of the stick in the beginning.
Yes.
Because when you think about it, it's like her dad only spent what 3 months with her, and then spent the other 9 in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when her dad dies, she's trying to figure out how she's going to pay for school.
She has a lot of stress on her for a young girl.
Yeah, and then like she
the part I loved about Camino's parts though is that's where we really got like the traditions of their culture and the Dominican Republic as a backdrop and all of their ancestral traditions and their way of worshiping the ancestors. Like her aunt was such a strong figure in the book, and the way that she was like this healer who worshipped her ancestors, the tributes that she did, the rituals. It was so interesting because I know nothing about ancestral worship in a way, even though that is a lot of my background, like where on my dad's side of the family. So it was so interesting to see it from that perspective, from that Dominicana perspective of their roots and their culture. And I was just like, this is so fascinating. Like how much her aunt believed in it and how much she kind of needed it to heal people. And how much Camino also believed, and even her father believing, but feeling like he had to hide it because he was living in a westernized nation. Or a Western nation, not westernized. But that was fascinating. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we can't talk about too much because obviously it gives a lot of spoilers. But I find it ironic that we were talking about how young girls are treated differently than boys, and how like it's looked at as them being fast. Like I find it that we had that conversation, and now we're talking about this book. So it's just like, maybe
that is very true.
Maybe we didn't realize it, but yeah, it's like. Also, I will say this again: her daddy was trash, though.
Oh my gosh, her dad was a trash can.
It's like, I love this book, don't get me wrong, but her daddy was trash.
Talk about Papa was a Rolling Stone, like Jesus.
Right. And then not only that, but how dare you act righteous?
How dare you?
It's just like, oh, like I felt bad for his wife. That was the real character I felt bad for, his wife.
I agree. I felt really bad for her. And like it was so interesting because when he died, you saw her complete grief and how she fell apart and how the grief kind of overtook her for a while. And you really saw her go through all the stages of grief that people talk about, because the way she went from being so heartbroken and so hurt to being so enraged and so disgusted.
Right.
I was like,
she couldn't move. The next scene was like, screw it, I don't care.
It was intense.
A lot.
She went through a lot. And like, it's so interesting too, because a lot, Camino touches on this in the book, but a lot of that is normalized in Dominican culture, where the men leave the island and they have one family on the island and they have another family in the States. And how she talks about how that is very normal and how a lot of men do that. And they just feel like they can have their cake and eat it too, and go back and forth between these two lives. And it's perfectly fine because, I don't know, they're men or whatever. That was fascinating. Because it happens a lot in my culture. Like you hear about a lot of Nigerian men who have whole wives at home, and then they come to America and they marry somebody else, mostly to get a green card or something like that. Even some of them, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they actually really do love these women, but they'll have like 2 separate families. They'll have like a family in America and all their kids, and then they'll have a family back at home. And a lot of times these situations end in tragedy, where one family ends up losing out and one family ends up being left, because you just can't split yourself like that between 2 continents. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not feasible at the end of the day, unless the man has a lot of wealth. But a lot of times you hear about these men completely either abandoning their families back home and their families back home just gradually the visits get less and less and less, and then they just never see them again. Or they actually, once they obtain their green card and have a few kids with their American wife, they abandon her. Because I remember growing up, there was this girl I knew, and that was her situation. Like, her father literally left her and her mom in America. They found out that he had a whole nother family back home in Nigeria, and he left to be with them, and she never saw him again. And as far as I know, to this day, she still hasn't spoken to him. And that was back in like when we were like in middle school.
Wow.
Yes. He just abandoned them. He was like, bye.
You know, I have a question now. It's like Elizabeth, you gave us that. So like, what's next, sis?
I know. I really am curious to know what she's writing next, because I'm ready for it already.
I also really like the fact that she writes in verse.
I really appreciate that. I mean, I really like when she also doesn't write in verse, but there's something about her books in verse that just hit differently.
Yeah, it's just like, thank you, woman.
I do kind of want to reread like The Poet X and With the Fire on High though now.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking it up online now, because now I asked the question and I'm like, I legit want to know, like, what else is coming?
Mm-hmm. If she said anything, she may not have.
She might not have said anything, because, you know, she's very intentional about her words on social media. So
yes, she is. And this book did just come out in May, Brittany.
I know, but like, remember how we read With Fire on High like immediately, and then like a month later we learned that she already had another book coming out?
That's very true.
I'm like, why can't we have that?
I know.
Oh, coming April 7th, 2020. Oh, Write Yourself a Lantern, a journal inspired by Poet X.
That already happened.
That already happened.
Yeah.
Beast Girl and Other Origin Myths.
Huh.
This was in 2015? I need it. I mean,
I think she does have one or two other novels that like we may not know about that were prior to the Poet X, I believe.
Oh, her short story In a Phoenix Must Burn was good. I would love for her to expound on that story. I forgot.
Elizabeth, if you're listening, please.
Right? Like, can you just go ahead and give us the rest of that story? Thanks. This is us wishful thinking that one day she might like pop in like on the YouTube chat thing and just be like, "Hello, lovelies." I promise all of us will die, but we'll come back.
Exactly, we will come back for sure.
Just like,
she is like very, very accessible though on social media. She talks to her fans, so and she replies to things, which I appreciate.
She's so nice.
I like when authors like interact with their readers freely, and there doesn't seem to like this like huge divide or gulf between the author and their readers. I do like that.
I personally, well, since we're on this topic, I do like when authors interact with us. It's very fun. However, I really need us as book readers and book reviewers to stop being assholes to authors.
Oh.
In the sense of like, if you read a book and you don't like it and you decide to do a review, don't be that dick that tags the author in it.
Oh no.
Because
do authors actually do that?
When people shout out their work. Sorry, that's my rice cooker. Right? Like, if they get tagged, they're gonna watch it or they're gonna look at it because you tagged them in it. And why would you tag them in a bad review? Like, they don't, like, it's such a jerk move to tag them. Oh yeah, because you know, I follow Rena Barron because you know Kingdom of Souls is life. And she was talking about it, and apparently some douchebag tagged her in a video where he said that her book didn't follow a traditional fantasy trope, aka wasn't white. And he couldn't really relate to it. And I was like, who's reading fantasy books and trying to relate?
Yeah, that's a bit.
You relate
that's
to
definitely a stretch.
Right. You relate to fae, dragons, elves. Is that what you're relating to? But yeah.
Fantasy is like pure escapism. Like, you're not reading fantasy to relate.
And also, shouldn't we be happy that the fantasy trope wasn't used?
Right. And it's something new and fresh.
Right. I saw that and I was like, PSA, let's not like, it's okay to not like a book. It's perfectly fine not to like a book, but let's not be a jerk and tag the artist because these books are their art.
Amen. PSA for today.
Words for the wise.
We are doing the Lord's work with that message. Please don't do it. Don't be that asshole. And everybody, it has been an hour.
Yep.
And we are going to go ahead and round out this podcast. Thanks.
So we'd like to know your thoughts on the 2 segments. What were the 2 segments? Minding my Black ass business and then reading books by BookTube and BookTwitter.
Yes.
If you like them, if you didn't like them, we would always appreciate your feedback.
Yes, we would. And that is it for tonight's podcast. Thank you so much for joining Black Prose Club. We will see you on our next one. And everyone have a great evening.
That's actually next Sunday. Next Sunday is a live.
Yes, it is.
We'll show our faces.
We will show our faces. Don't you worry. And it's one of our scheduled ones. And we will make sure that we have the notification up well enough for you to remember. But don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll always be notified when we go live. Please don't forget to subscribe. Yes, please like it. It definitely helps us out a ton. And you can follow us on all of our social medias. And we will catch y'all on the internets. Everyone have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.